Okay, so picture this. A world where getting older, like really aging, isn't a guarantee. What if turning back the clock on our bodies wasn't something out of a movie, but a real possibility? Kind of blows your mind, right? That's exactly what we're digging into today, the latest breakthroughs in aging research, specifically this thing called cellular reprogramming. And to help us unpack all this and see how close we are to this sci-fi future, we've got an expert with us. So forget just living longer. Could we actually get younger? Let's find out. Now, we always hear about DNA being like our body's instruction manual. But what happens when those instructions get all messed up? Like an old cassette tape that's been played way too many times and the sound's all garbled.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it. Because what we see as aging, the wrinkles, getting a bit slower, maybe getting sick a bit more, that's really just the outward signs of what's going on deep down at the cellular level. See, each time our cells divide, those DNA instructions got to be copied. And over time, well, little errors start creeping in. And to make things worse, things like too much sun or even pollution, those can mess with our DNA too, making this whole aging thing speed up.
So basically we age because at the tiniest level, our cells are kind of falling apart. That's a bit grim when you put it like that. But then it also makes you wonder, what if there was a way to fix those errors? Like, could we hit a reset button on our cells or something?
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's exactly what these researchers are trying to figure out with this whole cellular reprogramming idea. We're not just talking about slowing aging down. We're talking about potentially flipping the script entirely.
Okay, hold on. Reprogramming. Are we talking about giving ourselves software updates or something?
Not quite, although it's a pretty good analogy. It all boils down to these things called Yamanaka factors. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know. They're named after the guy who discovered them, Shinya Yamanaka. Basically, these factors are like a special set of genetic instructions that can actually make a cell act younger.
Hold on. So these Yamanaka factors, are we talking like the fountain of youth for our cells here?
You could say that, yeah. Think of it this way. They have the potential to take a cell that's already specialized, like a skin cell or a heart cell, and turn it back into a younger version of itself, something called an induced pluripotent stem cell.
Okay, induced pluripotent stem cells. Definitely going to need to work on saying that one. But what's so special about these stem cells anyway?
Well, the cool thing about them is they can basically turn into any type of cell in your body. We're talking regenerating tissues that have been damaged, growing brand new organs. It's like hitting the refresh button on aging.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. So this isn't just some sci-fi dream. It's actually happening in labs right now. Where are we at with this research? What kind of breakthroughs are we talking about here?
Well, one of the areas where this is really showing a lot of promise is with age-related vision loss. There are actually clinical trials already happening where they're using these reprogrammed cells to try to treat macular degeneration, which is one of the main reasons people lose their sight as they get older.
Wait, so we're talking about potentially giving sight back to people who've lost it because of age. That's incredible.
That's the goal, yeah. And it's not just limited to vision either.
Yeah.
Researchers are looking into using cellular reprogramming for all sorts of things. Heart disease, Alzheimer's, even turning back the clock on individual organs like kidneys and muscles.
This is seriously groundbreaking stuff. But we know how it goes. With every potential breakthrough, there's got to be a but somewhere, right? What are the challenges or maybe even risks that come with this kind of technology?
You're right, there are always challenges. I'd say one of the biggest concerns right now with this whole cellular reprogramming thing is the risk of the cells kind of going haywire and growing out of control, which could lead to, you guessed it, cancer. Remember, we're basically giving these cells a new lease on life, and sometimes that can backfire. In fact, 2 of those Yamanaka factors we talked about, they're actually considered oncogenes, which means they have the potential to turn a cell cancerous if we're not super careful.
So it's like we're walking a tightrope here. We've got to find a way to harness this power to rejuvenate cells without letting it get out of hand and cause more problems than it solves. Sounds like a super delicate balancing act. So how are scientists even beginning to tackle these risks?
That's the question, isn't it? Well, one approach they're working on is trying to come up with modified Yamanaka factors that aren't as likely to go rogue and cause uncontrolled growth. Another idea is to really carefully control the environment where these cells are being reprogrammed. Think of it this way. Instead of trying to do this reprogramming inside the body, where there's more room for things to go wrong, what if we took the cells out, rejuvenated them in a lab where we can control everything really precisely, and then put them back in?
Like giving ourselves a spa day, but in a high-security facility or something. That actually makes a lot of sense. Still sounds unbelievably complicated, though. And that's just the science side of it. We haven't even touched on what a technology like this could mean for the world, the economy, our society. I mean, if we're talking about people potentially living a lot longer, that changes everything. And speaking of changing everything, there are some big names throwing some serious money at this whole anti-aging thing. We're talking billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Sam Altman, people investing heavily in these longevity startups. It makes you wonder, is this just another Silicon Valley trend, or are these investors onto something much, much bigger? We'll dig into that right after this quick message. So we were talking about these billionaires pouring money into startups trying to, well, make aging a thing of the past. It does make you wonder, is this just some Silicon Valley hype, or is there something more to it?
Right. It's definitely got people talking. I think it's a few things, honestly. You've got this group of tech people, right? They made it big, and they made it big young, disrupting industries, that's their thing. And now they're aiming for something even bigger. I mean, what's more disruptive than, disrupting death itself?
Yeah, talk about aiming high. It's like they're trying to hack the code of life, to outsmart our own biology. And hey, if I had billions, I might take a shot at immortality too.
I hear you, but it's not just about sticking around longer. It's about those extra years being good years. They're not focused on just living longer. They want to extend health span, the time we're actually healthy and thriving.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just tacking on years at the end. It's about making those years count. Instead of being stuck dealing with all the health problems that come with age, you're out there actually living.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting. Think about it. A world where people stay healthy, energetic, mentally sharp, way past what we now think of as old age. What would that mean for things like retirement, healthcare? Our whole society would be different.
No, yeah, you're right. That's a whole different ballgame. It's like we're on the edge of this longevity revolution, but we haven't even wrapped our heads around what that really means.
It's huge. And the crazy thing is, it's not some distant future anymore. There are companies doing amazing work right now. Like, take Altos Labs, they've got some of the brightest minds on this, all working towards this goal of, get this, reversing disease using the cellular reprogramming.
And they've definitely got the cash to back it up. Wasn't it something like $3 billion they got in funding? So how are they going about it? What are they actually working on?
Well, the thing about Altos is they're coming at it from all angles. I mean, they've got teams researching how to improve reprogramming itself, others digging into the nitty-gritty of how aging works in the first place. They're even looking into rejuvenating whole organs. Can you imagine? That could change everything for people waiting on transplants.
It's like they're creating a roadmap, a how-to guide on reversing the human body's aging process.
Kind of, yeah. And they're not alone. There's another company, Life Biosciences, they're making waves too. They're focused on using cellular reprogramming to fight age-related diseases.
Oh yeah, they were the ones working on age-related vision loss, right?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yep, that's them. They're in the middle of clinical trials right now with a therapy aiming to reverse vision loss from macular degeneration. It's early days, but so far it's looking good. If they pull it off, it would be huge, especially for the millions of people dealing with that.
It's wild to think we could be this close to not just treating these age-old diseases, but actually curing them. But even with all this amazing science and progress, we can't forget about the bigger picture, right? There's the ethical side of all of this. Like, what about fairness? Who gets access to this kind of technology? How much will it cost? Is this only going to be something for the wealthy? It could make inequality even worse.
That's such an important point. Anytime something this big comes along, there's that risk that the benefits aren't shared equally. We need to be having those tough conversations now about how to make sure everyone has a fair shot at this kind of treatment, not just the privileged few.
Absolutely. It's bigger than just science at this point. It's ethics, it's economics, it's social justice, all rolled into one. And it's not just about access either, right? This technology forces us to ask some pretty profound questions about what it means to be human in the first place. I mean, if we could drastically increase how long we live, would that change our values? What we find important? Would we even see ourselves the same way?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? No easy answers there, but they're questions we got to wrestle with now because this longevity revolution, it's not slowing down.
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's come back to the science for a second. Let's say we sort out all the ethical and societal stuff. Is there even a limit to how much we can actually turn back the clock on aging? Can we really reverse it forever, or does our biology put a hard stop on all of this at some point? So we're talking about hitting the rewind button on ourselves, but is there like a limit on how far back we can actually go? Can we really reverse aging like forever? Or is there a point where our biology just says, nope, this is as far as it goes?
It's a question that scientists are grappling with. I mean, cellular reprogramming has huge potential, right? But it's not a magic eraser for aging. Think about it this way. You can have the best software in the world, top of the line, but eventually you're going to run into hardware limitations.
So our bodies, they're kind of like machines. No matter what, they wear out over time.
Exactly. Every time our cells divide, even with reprogramming, there's always that chance for errors to sneak in. Plus, it's not just about our DNA. There are other things that build up, like damaged proteins, and then there's this whole thing with our telomeres. Those get shorter as we age, right?
Telomeres, those are like the things that protect the ends of our chromosomes, right? Like the plastic tips on shoelaces.
Exactly. They're like those little caps that stop our chromosomes from fraying. But every time a cell divides, those telomeres get a little bit shorter. Eventually, they get so short that the cell can't really divide properly anymore. And that process, well, that's one of the big reasons we age, and it's not something that cellular reprogramming can fix on its own, at least not yet.
So even if we figure out how to perfectly reprogram cells, there are still other biological processes happening that might put a limit on how long we can actually live.
Yeah, it seems that way. Aging is incredibly complex. It's not like there's just one thing we need to fix to stop it completely. But hey, even if we can't live forever, imagine if we could extend that part of our lives where we're healthy and active. That's still a pretty amazing goal to shoot for.
For sure, just think about it. An extra 10, 20 years of healthy living. That would change everything. Our relationships, our careers, our whole society. It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
Totally agree. The future is full of potential, but it comes with some big questions too. And the choices we make now, they're going to shape what that future looks like.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. It's been incredible exploring this whole world of cellular reprogramming with you. We've covered a lot of ground. The science, the potential, the risks, the ethics. It seems like we're on the verge of something big, something that could completely change how we think about aging. What was once just a fact of life might become something we can control, maybe even reverse. It's a future full of hope and possibility, but we need to be smart about it. We have to keep asking the tough questions, keep pushing for responsible innovation if we want to make this future a reality. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the boundaries of what's possible.